Stephanie Herseth Sandlin is the representative of the state of South Dakota. She is also the chief sponsor of H.R. 5236, which has been referenced by many members of the panel in their opening statements. They are serving as co-sponsors of her legislation. The legislation she has introduced would qualify woody biomass taken from federal lands as a feedstock that could qualify for the mandate for renewable fuels contained in our 2007 law. So, Ms. Herseth Sandlin, we are delighted to have you with us this morning. Your prepared written statement will be made a part of the record, and we would welcome your oral summary.
Chairman Boucher, Ranking Member Upton, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the new Renewable Fuels Standard enacted as part of the Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007. With the increase in the RFS included in the Energy Bill, we're moving aggressively to take advantage of the contribution agricultural producers across the nation can make to our national security, our energy economy, and our environment. Through an increase in biofuels production, we can reduce our dependence on foreign oil, revitalize rural economies, and decrease our overall carbon emissions at the same time. Because we're in the beginning stages of developing biofuels as a reliable domestic source of energy, it's essential for Congress to sustain its support for ethanol production as a way of fostering the development of advanced biofuels. We expect these advanced biofuels to utilize a diversified set of cellulosic feedstocks, from corn cobs to prairie switchgrass to wood waste. While inclusion of a forward-looking RFS in the Energy Bill was great news for many renewable energy producers across the nation, late in the process, an unfortunate provision was added that prohibits virtually all woody biomass from national forests, including the Black Hills National Forest in South Dakota, from being counted toward the expanded Renewable Fuels Standard. The definition also excludes all biofuels made from biomass from private sources unless it comes from those trees that are planted in a plantation and actively managed, which could potentially exclude woody biomass on private property. I think this is a misguided policy that squanders what could be an important source of renewable homegrown energy. It is a wrong-headed disincentive to use an available cellulosic feedstock. It simply doesn't make sense. That's why I've introduced a bipartisan bill, H.R. 5236, the Renewable Biomass Facilitation Act, which revises the definition of renewable biomass to allow federally sourced biomass, and that would include trees, wood, brush, thinnings, chips, and slash that is removed as a result of approved preventive treatments to count toward the renewable fuels mandate, provided it's used for the production of biofuels. Approved preventive treatments include reducing hazardous fuels, minimizing or containing disease or insect infestation, and restoring ecosystem health. H.R. 5236 does not alter federal forest management policy. In fact, the bill, if enacted, could help foster responsible public forest land management by supporting efforts to reduce the incidence of destructive wildfires. The altered definition simply means that these forest byproducts, which would otherwise not be used, or perhaps in the case of slash piles simply be burned, thereby releasing more carbon in the air, or allowed to rot, releasing methane into the air, are instead able to be counted toward the Renewable Fuels Standard if used to produce biofuels. The bill would also allow virtually all private land biomass that is used as a feedstock for biofuels to count toward the mandate. The bill language is identical to the language included in the Senate version of the Farm Bill, which passed that chamber by a vote of 79 to 14. I'm proud to say that the 25 by 25 Coalition and the Society of American Foresters have written to Chairman Dingell and Ranking Member Barton expressing their concern with the Energy Bill's definition and urging the committee's consideration of H.R. 5236 as a remedy. And, Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent to include those letters into today's hearing record.
Without objection.
Earlier this year, I got an exciting first-hand view of the present and future of woody biomass feedstocks when I visited my constituent, Kale Process Design Group's pioneering wood waste ethanol production facility in Upton, Wyoming, not far from Kale's headquarters in Rapid City, South Dakota. KL, also testifying today, uses woody biomass, some of which has been removed from federally owned forest land to produce cellulosic ethanol. And I've discussed with KL its concerns with the renewable biomass definition. Importantly, I heard the very same concerns when I hosted a roundtable discussion in Rapid City, South Dakota, with a group including forestry product industry leaders and representatives from the Black Hills National Forest. I listened carefully to the participants because they rely and depend on the forest for their livelihood. Many of them were puzzled why our nation, when it's supporting the development of alternative energy, would purposely exclude a feedstock that is a byproduct of existing forestry practices. They pointed out that leaving slash piles to rot or burning them leads to negative environmental effects that far outweigh any benefit gained when waste returns to soil. They would like to participate in the renewable energy movement the Energy Bill fosters, and they have no interest in turning the Black Hills into a so-called fuel farm. It is my firm opinion that the forest planning process followed by the U.S. Forest Service will appropriately protect against such a development. In conclusion, by amending the definition of renewable biomass in keeping with H.R. 5236, we can put sound policy support in place for the development of cellulosic ethanol so crucial to meeting the new RFS. I commend to the committee and all observers the testimony and experience of KL Design Products, which speaks to the potential that exists here. If we fail to realize this tremendous potential for advanced biofuels, we could fail once again to take every responsible measure to wean ourselves from dependence on foreign oil. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms. Herseth Sandlin. And we look forward to Mr. Kramer's testimony on our third panel this afternoon. I just have one question of you. Could you focus for just a moment on your definition of the woody biomass that would qualify for the Renewable Fuel Standard? Is there any restriction on the kind of biomass that can be taken out of the national forest under your bill for that purpose? Would it be limited to, for example, to biomass that is harvested out of the forest for other purposes?
It is consistent. It would be consistent with the forest plan for that particular forest. So it puts no additional restrictions other than the types of practices for addressing the urban wildland interface and the thinning projects that are conducted by the U.S. Forest Service, the slash piles that remain in light of those thinning projects. Again, anything that's an approved preventive treatment, again, for reducing hazardous fuels, for addressing insect infestations, would be allowed to count toward the RFS if used for biofuels production.
Thank you very much. Well, I personally think you've made a compelling case for your measure, and I thank you for being here to do that this morning. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Upton.
Well, thank you. I think you've made a compelling case also, and I thought I'd tell you particularly, even before you said Upton, Wyoming, that you can add my name as a co-sponsor to your bill. I look forward to working with you and obviously keeping it bipartisan. Thank you for the nice job, and I yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Upton. Other members have comments or questions for our witness? Well, Ms. Herseth Sandlin, with the committee's thanks, you are excused, and we will try to treat your measure with tender care.